hunting,
fishing,
cooking,
camping,
conservation,
travel,
gardening,
photography, family.
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 This is the Outdoor Rules Podcast.
Okay. Should I turn this up? How?
Selling crackers.
Not that far. We can listen to it and see if you can hear that stuff going on.
I feel like as long as we don't have the second window open, we'll be.
Why don't we can scooch it a little that way?
I feel like that's good though. I feel like now we're all the same amount away. Yeah. And then if there's parts where you're not talking for a while, you can always lean back.
I'm going to get the kids in the car, and then I'll come check in.
Oh,
yeah, Addie, get the kids in the car.
Okay.
Well,
now
I feel like I've done this before.
Make the same mistake again. Robert, are you still in here?
Yeah.
They're going to go to the park.
I wonder how long until Mike notices. You need to save this clip because that was fantastic, especially Robert. I'm sure with Mike's voice. You heard it.
Yeah, you probably did pick it up from there.
Anne's pink hat. No.
Yeah, it's under the couch.
Oh, yep.
Good job.
We found her hat.
Please hold.
Here we are again.
Here we are again. Welcome, everyone, to the Outdoor Rules Podcast. This is with the Girls Ruhl. I'm Rachel, co-hosting with Caitlin.
Hey there.
And Caitlin is Mike's wife, for reference. I am Mark's wife. We've got Kaley here, Matt's youngest daughter.
Hi.
And we've got Meemaw, the matriarch of the family.
Karen, Mama, Meemaw Ruhl.
And if at any point it sounds like we have had this conversation before, spoiler alert, we absolutely have. We recorded this podcast roughly 48 hours ago, and it didn't quite take. So we are re-recording, and hopefully we are doing what Mike wants us to do.
Technical glitches, right?
That's right.
Just means we get to sit together again and chat. So
absolutely.
I don't know if it's going to pick up any of if you're flipping the top on that. It's fine, but
okay.
Because now that the thing's up higher,
Okay, we're going to call you Little Mike.
All right, Kaylee's Little Mike.
I don't want to do this again.
Yeah, where do we start?
I think let's kick it off with Kaley. Kaley is a sophomore in high school. She's 15, and even though she's only 15, she is already a very experienced outdoors woman. And actually, recently, she shot her best buck ever, and we haven't told that on the podcast yet. So, Kaley, how about you take us through your recent buck?
Well, I never know how to start.
Was it it was archery season?
Yeah.
Okay.
Archery season, closer to the end, I guess.
How many nights had you been out already at that point? It wasn't your first night archery hunting, was it?
I mean, I didn't go out as much this year as I did in past years, but I still went out pretty often, as much as I could, especially with soccer and everything, because I have soccer in the evenings during the week. But the night that I shot my buck, I actually had soccer that night. And you kind of have to rush to get out after school and everything because, you don't have that much time. So we went out pretty early. Yeah, I get home around 3, so we went out about then. And we weren't out for too long. We were seeing deer pretty much right away. And we kind of knew from the start it would be a good night because it was good weather. It wasn't too warm, but it also wasn't too cold, and it was nice and sunny.
You were hunting with your dad?
Yes, I was with my dad in a newsstand we had put up not very long before, probably a few weeks. And the night before, we were in a blind in the middle of the field, and this buck that I wanted to shoot, he's real wonky. He's got kind of 3 main beams. He was in the corner where this newsstand we put up was. So the next night we decided, we'll sit over there. And so, of course, the next night we sat there and the same deer was all the way across the field in the other corner. So,
of course.
Yeah, of course.
Naturally.
So we were well, that's a bummer, but we were still seeing deer. So we were oh, this is nice. This is hopeful. And then we actually saw a bigger buck mount a doe in the middle of the field, which was really cool. And then soon after that, all those deer went in, and my dad was like, well, they can still, make their way down here, so we just got to keep watching and whatever. And then not even a few minutes later, this nicer buck comes walking through the woods, just, dilly-dallying, and we had a decoy out that night. We had a doe decoy out.
So they were still rutting? There's a lot of that going on?
Yes, yeah.
We had recently picked up a doe decoy who my daughter shot a buck over, and she named her Darla.
Yes. So
Darla was out with Kaley.
Yes. So we had Darla out, and Dad was insisting that he could see the decoy, and he was looking at the decoy. So I was like, oh, yeah, probably. And then he wasn't ever really spooked. I mean, I don't think he ever really noticed us at all until a little later. But so he made his way through the woods to us. He was at about 15 yards probably when I shot him, but instead of going right out to the doe decoy as any little dumb buck would do, he went through the woods, which was kind of a sign that he was more mature and older. So there were only a few holes in the woods where we were, like, where he was walking through, because when we put that stand up, we kind of expected them to go into the field, like, ahead of us. So it was a little wonky because I had to like stand up and turn around, and that's hard when you're in a tree stand with not really much cover. But so he made his way to us. He got to about 15 yards, and he got into a spot where the brush was a little less dense, and I could see more of him, but I still couldn't really see his shoulder. So I was a little skeptical to shoot, but my dad was like, well, just try it anyways. So I took the shot, and you could see the blood coming out of him. So that's always a good sign. And he didn't ever go more than 50 yards. And my dad watched him go down, and then, you get the shakes and get all excited. And my dad is one to call everyone. So he's already on the phone with all my uncles, my poppy,
Oh, while you're in the tree stand?
Yeah, well, we're still in the tree stand. I haven't even gotten down yet. So he gets down first always, and he checks to make sure the blood trail looks good and finds the arrow and whatever. And then he told me to get down. So I lowered everything down, and we went about 50 yards through thick brush, which is never fun. But we found him, and he was pretty close to the edge. So we didn't have to take him very far before we gutted him. And that was nice. And, yeah.
But before you ever gutted him, how many people were out there?
Well, Mark and Rachel and CJ came, even though they had to go to church that night, and Rachel had to sing, but she still showed up in her nice church clothes.
With muck boots on.
Yes. And my poppy came, and obviously me and my dad were there, and I think that was it.
Yeah, that night.
Yeah.
But it's photos before the deer gets gutted, photos during, photos after. It's
and
just
I'm sure we can add some of those somewhere.
Whole family affair. Yeah, we'll
for
pop
sure.
those in.
It's really nice having, Rachel as a little photographer, because she shows up with her camera, and you get great pictures, which a lot of people don't,
Don't go anywhere without it.
Yeah.
Not in this family. There's always something to photograph.
Do you like that? Was it fun having people there, or is it overwhelming?
Definitely. I like having people there to be, excited for you. And I mean, when CJ shot our deer, I was there too, and I had soccer that night. So, I mean, I had to go to soccer, but I still showed up, and,
She wanted to call everybody.
Yep.
And you guys have heard that clip in a previous episode.
Yeah.
So the question is, did you go to soccer after your buck, or did your dad let you skip practice?
Well, I think I knew, like, immediately when we found it that I wasn't going to practice, but I didn't say anything because I was like, well, maybe he'll forget about it. But then he was like, I think you should text your coach and tell her that you won't be at practice. And I was like, well, what do you want me to say? And he was like, just tell her that it's a family issue or a family emergency. And I was like, okay.
Oh, shoot, hope she's not listening now.
Yeah.
But then it was funny because at my tournament a few weeks later, my dad told her that I had shot a buck, and he was like, yeah, that's why she wasn't at practice. That was our family emergency. And she wasn't mad. She was, laughing and whatnot. And Dad was like, and she was like, well, I was going to ask if everything was okay. Like, and Dad was like, well, that is a family emergency or something like that. But yeah.
So as a sophomore and as a female in a public school, how many other girls are into the outdoors? Or is it, are there as many as you would typically think, or are there far less?
I definitely think there's more that are not into that stuff than there are, but there's a fair amount of people, like especially in my FFA class, obviously, and my like ag and stuff. That's definitely where I like meet most of them. But I have a few friends in like my other classes that I can, talk about that. But you
don't feel like an outlier necessarily as someone who hunts or a girl who hunts, young woman.
Not necessarily, no. And like I post like some stuff on Instagram. Like I posted the pictures for my buck this year on Instagram, and all my friends were so supportive in the comments, and they're like, "Oh, congrats!" Like, and my family too. Like, so that's always.
I'm pretty sure a couple of your friends even commented "slay."
Yeah, that's the thing to say these days.
I wouldn't know. Just look at your comments, and that's how I learn.
I didn't hunt in high school, so I didn't have that experience. But I also didn't know anybody in my high school, girls or boys, who hunted.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't even imagine.
That surprises me for Wisconsin.
I know. Yeah. Milwaukee area, though.
That's fair.
It's kind of its own place.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask the friends that don't hunt, are they supportive? But
yeah. I mean, none of them are like straight up like, that's like awful.
Right.
And I'm sure some of them like probably don't think that it's like, I mean, you can't really judge someone if you've never done it, but also like some people are just like, yeah, I couldn't do that. And that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously I'm not going to shame someone for being like, oh, that's awful that you do that. And I'm going to be like, well, I obviously feel bad for the animals, but it's how we provide food.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So,
that's one of the things I love about it is the connection to food and family in the pursuit of something. And then, being able to share a meal with family and friends later on.
Yeah. Because I feel like sometimes people take hunting as like, oh, you're just killing animals for fun. But that's really not what it's about, like at all.
Right. And I know that Mark has mentioned it in previous episodes, but they've talked about hunter's remorse. And, just because we are taking the life of an animal, doesn't mean we get enjoyment out of the actual act of the harvesting itself, but we know why we're doing it and we know where our food comes from. And so it doesn't have to be exclusive one way or another. You can get great joy out of harvesting an animal, but also feel a little bit of sadness in taking the life as well.
I mean, I cried after I shot my first 2 deer. And I mean, like, part of that's happy and part of that's sad. I mean,
I still cry when I shoot deer. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we've talked to Kaley about what it's like being a young woman in the outdoors. I do want to hear from Meemaw. What was it like when you were Kaley's age or a little bit older, 2 generations back?
I don't remember any female hunters.
Okay.
I'm sure there were some, none within my own family unit or friends unit in school that I was aware of. It was, I grew up in late 50s into the 60s and just not aware of the women being out there hunting at that point in time. Like I said, I'm sure there were some here and there, but certainly not very prominent.
Tell us a little bit about your favorite things to do in the outdoors and who you were able to do those things with when you were younger.
As a kid, I don't remember any relatives, aunts, uncles, even cousins on my dad's side being into hunting or fishing. On my mother's side, she had 4 brothers, and of those 4, 2 of them were hunters, small game and deer. Of those 2, one of them was an avid trout fisherman, loved to trout fish. Don't remember any other type of fishing that he did. I did have one aunt, a sister of my mom's, who did go deep sea fishing with her husband on occasion. So I never went hunting, never shot a gun in my life of any type. A cap gun as a kid that did little firecrackers.
There's still time if you want to.
And Nerf guns. No, I have no real desire to shoot a gun. But my uncle that fished would take me fishing. And that's where I kind of learned to put my own worm on, bait my hook, and take my fish off, and things like that. We would walk, actually, to the Snitz Creek, which is not too far from from where we lived here in the small town of Quentin. And sometimes, once I learned to drive, he did not drive. He lived with us. He was my mother's oldest brother, never married, so he lived with us my whole life. And once I learned to drive, we would drive to the Hammer Creek down at the pumping station along 322 and some other locations and fish, and always up at deer camp. My dad belonged to a camp in Potter County also, a different camp. I think we talked about that before in a podcast. A different camp from the Ruhl camp or the Cornwall camp up in Potter. But so we went up there for not usually a week at a time, but long weekends and different times. And if Uncle Mick was with us on those trips, we would go fishing, him and I. We'd find a spot not too far from camp that we could get to. And
how old were you think, when you were tagging along with him and you were doing things like baiting your own hook?
CJ's age, probably 8 or so.
Is that when you guys had the cabin up in Potter?
Yeah, my dad belonged to that cabin ever since I remembered anything, but he was the cook at the camp.
Okay.
More so than he was a member, but
sure.
But his main job was to be there for the 2 weeks of rifle season to cook.
Okay. And
to cook for 25 guys.
And Pop Grant, was he a member, or did he build the cabin not far down the road in Potter when Poppy was a kid?
Oh, Poppy, like as in my husband Randy.
Yeah,
Poppy.
I was wondering if he was a kid going up to Potter County and you were a girl going up to Potter County at the same time without having known each other at that point in your lives.
Well, we knew each other from church always.
Okay.
So we really always knew each other. I don't think Poppy was allowed to camp until he was 16.
Okay.
I don't think he could go at the
even
age of
for
12.
fishing or anything like that.
They probably, Poppy Grant, Poppy's dad, was not a member
Okay.
of the camp. He was the only brother that wasn't an actual member.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
I was just wondering because we had a cabin up in Potter and Mark had a cabin up in Potter at the same time. And I remember riding by deer camp and seeing people there. And lo and behold, who would have known that I married a person at this camp
that
one
is
day.
Kind of crazy.
So I was just wondering if there was like something similar, but so he doesn't have to use that. But
that's funny.
So what was your favorite way that your uncles would prepare their trout? And do you still hold true to those recipes when you make trout that your husband or grandkids have brought back?
Well, my mom wouldn't touch any of the trout or pheasants or rabbits that were brought home by her two siblings. So my dad prepared them as a kid. And really, I think how he prepared them is how I prepared them when we went to deer camp and we'd make trout. And that was just simply putting butter inside,
slice it open.
Slice it
with
open.
The skin on?
Yep.
Yeah.
Of course, it's been cleaned and all that. So butter in there and salt and pepper everywhere and wrap it in tin foil. A lot of times we threw it in the fire.
Yeah.
Or, put a grate on top of the outdoor fire pit. And at Ole Bull, I'd throw them on the grill. They'd catch them. Poppy would clean them.
Mm-hmm.
I'd always have tinfoil butter and salt and pepper packed in the cooler, in the supplies of the food, because we go for a whole day to the state park, not too far from the cabin.
Yep.
And because they had a kids only 12 and under, I believe it was, fishing area.
They recently changed that to 15 and under.
That's really nice. And so it was a nice stretch of stream and usually very successul for the kids to.
They never wanted to leave, did they?
Oh, they never wanted to leave. No matter how long a day we put in, even when we'd spend 2 weeks every summer at camp, and the last day we'd clean up camp and pack up camp, which with 2 weeks was a lot of
4 kids.
Sure.
4 kids and all the gear and dirty bags and bags of dirty laundry, etc. But we'd load it up and we'd say to them, if we get this done in good time that we could get out of here, but 9 o'clock or so in the morning, we'll go to Ole Bull on the way home. And we would literally be dragging them to the car at 5 in the evening.
Yeah.
At
Still have
Ole
another
Bull
4-hour
with
drive
them.
home.
It was
Yeah,
it was a
another 4-hour
strategy to get
drive.
them out of camp. Then you get to Ole Bull.
But
and
the
there's
strategy to
nothing
get them
left.
actually in the car at Ole Bull and back home without whining and foot stomping.
And there were
There were
no.
some good foot stompers amongst the 4 children.
Which one was the worst?
Oh, I think his name was Michael.
Mad Dog, right?
Yes, Mad Dog, we
Mad
called
Dog.
him. Yes.
So, what are some of the joys and challenges of raising 4 kids that have a very strong tie to the outdoors?
Oh, muddy clothes. You know, there happens to be a stream right at our camp and a spring. You know, so we'd have the challenges of who could hold their arm in the spring long enough.
We still do that. Kaley and I tie every year. We're both too
Because that
stubborn.
water is cold,
you.
whether it's July or December.
Mm-hmm.
It is freezing, freezing cold. Kate would try to beat the challenge by going out there and washing her hair in the spring,
I've
just
done
to
that.
prove,
Yeah, actually,
just to
have.
prove to the boys
We
that
can be
she was no
tougher.
wimp.
Yeah.
And she is not.
She's
And often
not.
she won. She could win that challenge because sometimes she was the winner of holding her arm or hand down in the spring the longest.
I bet
Nice.
as the girl in the family of 3 brothers that you needed to
Prove yourself.
to prove yourself from time to time. Absolutely.
But yeah, lots of muddy clothes, and you know, everything smelled of wood smoke because, of course, we had a wood fire going. If it was chilly, even sometimes in June, July, there can be chilly mornings and evenings and stuff. And of course, a fire ring going all day long. So all the clothes smelled like smoke and were filthy, dirty, muddy. You know?
Did you have some kind of system where you were like, okay, we're going for 2 weeks, I have to bring X number of outfits? Or
dump the whole drawer in a bag.
yeah, with no laundry,
I just,
no
you
way
know,
to dry.
I just hoped and prayed we had enough socks and,
Yeah.
you know, and undies at least. Outer clothing I could rinse off in the spring if I had to and hang them somewhere to dry, stiff as a board, but at least they were dry and, you know, whatever. And once in a blue moon, some of those years when it was just particularly nasty, I had to give in and we'd go into the laundromat in town, you know. But that was a challenge in itself.
Yeah.
Because none of those 4 kids wanted to go to the laundromat.
And I'm sure that awesome thrift store wasn't there back then either.
Not. But we all went. It was a family.
Yeah.
It was a family project.
Mm-hmm.
So
Little shameless plug for the Cowder Sport Goodwill there.
There were some gems there.
Gems.
Yeah.
Best thrifting I've ever experienced for sure.
This could be like
Okay.
I want to maybe real quick talk about the baiting your own hook kind of stuff and like the independence you get from that.
Oh, yeah.
Poppy made me do it. I remember I was up at deer camp and I was fishing with Addie and Poppy. We were fishing for sunnies, which, you know, sometimes can be a pain to get off the hook because they have like the spikes.
Mm-hmm.
But Poppy was like, if you want to fish, you're going to have to take your own fish off. And he walked away, gave us his little
Seems like a
necklace
Poppy
that
thing.
has his forceps and whatever else and his little line clippers on them and said, here you go, and walked away. And then me and Addie were kind of just, you know, had to learn how to
Figured
take
it
them
out.
off, and we figured it out. Yeah. So that was, and then, you know, of course you feel like, oh, now I can do this. And
I think
now
you
I
might-
love taking fish off the hook. I
Yeah.
ask people to do it for them.
I think you might have been a little younger than 10 because I
Yeah.
feel like that summer we did a boys versus girls fish off, I guess, tournament.
Oh, yeah.
It was you and Addie and I. And it was,
it's Stevenson.
yes,
Yeah.
it was Matt, Mark, Hunter, Grant. I think Poppy was off doing his own thing. But the girls won. And I'm pretty sure I didn't take off everybody's fish. So I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure you and
probably.
Addie,
Yeah.
and you were probably only, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, something like
Yeah.
that. So
Maybe it was longer ago.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I don't even know if I can remember the first time I did it because, like Meemaw was saying with her uncles, my dad was like that pretty quick. But I also remember feeling like a really big step in my outdoor journey, I guess. And it kind of carried over to personal life too, because it's like a little burst of independence. I feel like that gives you some confidence that, oh, I can do this. And here and there through the years, been able to feel that again from time to time, hunting or fishing or things done in the outdoors a little bit on your own and maybe separate from your mentors or family. But that giving you kind of confidence generally. What do you think about that, Rachel?
So I started hunting when I was sometime between 12 and 14. My brother was about 4 years older, and he was already into it. My dad, who was a photojournalist in the Army, and after that, he opened his own PR firm. He hunted for us, but it wasn't something that he grew up doing or had an insane passion for. He enjoyed doing it with us, but if it weren't for us asking him to take us out, he wouldn't have. He wouldn't have gone out himself. So once I turned, I think 16, he was like, well, if you guys got it. So I would tag along with my brother. We would, waterfowl hunt and things like that. But when I was able to go out deer hunting on my own, it was just kind of like that. And I would make calls if I needed to. But we talked about this earlier. And while now I absolutely love the family aspect of it, where, everyone comes out and they're in full support of you, especially in the Ruhl family. It is so incredibly empowering as a woman to be out doing it completely on your own, which I've done lots of hunting on my own. We actually talked about that a little bit the last time, how I think it was 18 or 19 and I was hunting and I shot a deer and I heard some footsteps coming up behind me and I turned around and I had already gutted the deer. And, when you're gutting a deer, you get hot and sweaty, your sleeves are rolled up. And I remember taking off my hat and I had long hair at the time and it spilled out and little old man was the one shuffling up behind me and he said, "Cripes, you're a woman." So that was kind of one of my more memorable solo hunting experiences. But I don't know, there's just something about doing everything on your own, going out on your own and actually, shooting the deer in that instance and then retrieving it, gutting it, dragging it. And yeah, it's incredibly empowering to do on your own, but it's incredibly rewarding to get to do it with your family, which is
both are for sure important. I wouldn't want to give up either one, and if I had to pick one over the other, I'd definitely rather hunt and be outdoors with family for sure. But having little tidbits of time here and there is pretty cool.
Yeah, it builds your confidence, and I think as a mom too, and being an aunt to girls who have spent lots of time in the outdoors, I think that's really cool to be able to kind of see them walking the same steps that you did years ago and be able to share any insight that you might have learned along the way.
For sure. We kind of talked about, Kaley's, right, the youngest Ruhl girl here, touched on Meemaw. But Rachel, where does your outdoor story begin? Does it begin with hunting or does it begin with other activities?
Yeah, my dad was never into fishing. We always spent time in the outdoors. When I was younger, we had horses and things like that, and we did lots of camping. But I would say, starting to rifle hunt with my dad at a younger age. And then eventually he kind of took a step back once he knew and trusted that we could do our own thing once we were old enough, or that I could tag along with my brother. But then was completely just able to go out on my own by the time I was 18. And that's what I did. I spent a fair amount of time working in the industry. I wouldn't necessarily say the hunting industry, but it did cross over. It was more the tactical industry. My dad being in the Army, he did lots of, 3 guns, which is pistol, rifle, shotgun. So I grew up kind of around that as well. And I spent years working for a firearms dealer. So I sold a lot of firearms and eventually became a licensed Smith & Wesson armor, and that was really cool, but it was just an industry that demanded a lot, I think, especially from a female, and it was a lot of things that I wasn't willing to give. Like, I want to hold standards to my daughter, so definitely took a step away from that industry once meeting Mark, which was awesome. So
what do you do now?
Now I'm a full-time photographer. I am a wedding photographer by trade. I do anywhere from 20 to 40 weddings a year, and slowly cutting back as, you gain more experience. And I've been full-time for 8 years now, it's really cool. And it's a nod to my dad, having grown up in his dark room in our basement and developing film with him. And yeah, now film is coming back, and I have clients asking for film on their wedding collections, which is really cool. But it's just, I get so much creative inspiration just taking the camera along to deer camp out in the field and being able to give everyone cool photos of them with their deer, whether it's a doe or a big buck. But it's just really, really fun to take my camera everywhere and be able to share that with everyone.
Yes. If you've been paying attention to
our
social
stories.
media and stories and been amazed at some of the photography, we have Rachel to thank for that. And I've actually noticed even in like your engagement photos and wedding photos, you kind of get people outside.
Yeah, they know if they have a session with me, they'll probably have to check for ticks at some point. So yeah,
it's kind of part of your trademark. Right?
Yeah, it's definitely wild and free. But yeah, we've been the last 3 nights. Caitlin and Kaley and I have been going out into a blind on the property that we hunt, and we've been hoping to get Caitlin on a muzzleloader.
We've had some excitement for sure.
We've had some excitement.
We've had good blind chats.
For sure. Great blind chats. We kind of wish that we had podcast equipment in the blind with us, most definitely.
Yeah,
so,
I think that's a good
make that like a feature. Like we should really
field
make
diaries
that, like,
or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
We saw some deer every night. The first night. So
It's
like
been
20 to 30
windy
doe.
as all get out, though.
Yeah, we were like, man, it's windy, and that was on like Monday, and then Tuesday and yesterday we were like, well,
each night got progressively windier.
We were like, and we thought Monday was windy.
Last night we were all like holding a corner of the blind down.
Yeah, we were literally. It was like
because it was trying to blow over our heads.
We got there and it was like completely off the ground, and we were like, what? What do we do about this?
Yep.
So Monday it felt like a breeze.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we thought it was windy on
hindsight,
Monday.
it was like a breeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we were like, I think the wind might be affecting the deer behavior.
Yeah.
We still saw a bunch later, but then less the next night and late.
And the most crucial component to us being able to go out and hunt as Outdoor Rules girls is Meemaw being willing to take our children and entertain them for the hours that we were outside. So.
Some of them are more challenging to entertain than others, for sure. I mean, Rachel and CJ and Robert are 8 and 6 and pretty independent and get along great and can kind of, be monitored, but basically entertain themselves. And Emmett entertains himself, and that's exactly what the problem is. Because the way he entertains himself.
He's a little busy.
Yes, it involves a lot of moving around and refrigerators opening and doors opening. And no, that's been huge. Thank you for your help this week.
Yes, for sure.
No problem.
But it's been awesome getting to do so because, as you know, Caitlin lives in New Mexico with Mike and her sons, Robert and Emmett, and we don't get to see them all too often. And it's just been, I personally have just been having so much fun connecting with you and getting to know you. I've been married to Mark for almost 10 years now, but I feel like, I feel like our hunting blind conversations were definitely some of the best we've ever had, and I've been really enjoying them.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's something about, for me, it's hunting or fishing, but it can just be, I'm sure there's a lot of other parallels, but something about kind of being out and doing something together where you're like, kind of in the trenches together, whatever
Yes.
you're trying to conquer something, is so much more connecting and memorable.
Holding the blinds down together.
Right. Fattening the hatches.
Caitlin, I do really love what you said about who got you out and kind of how you had the discussion with your dad recently about kind of, when you were younger versus now. I really, really appreciated that.
Yeah, so my dad was probably the primary person who got me out in the outdoors. The first thing I remember in that context was going on a camping and fishing trip in northern Wisconsin. My younger brother at that point was an infant, so I was 4 to 5 and just loved it, like soaked up every piece of that trip and have some cool photos of me holding a spinning rod at 4 years old. But then my dad would make efforts every year to get us out and get us fishing, but he never hunted. And so he has started hunting since I've jumped 100% in on it, and Mike being so involved, and we've gotten him out. And I remember a few years ago, he came along with me on my archery elk hunt in New Mexico, and I was pregnant with Robert at the time. September hunt, I was due beginning of October, so I was really pregnant at the time. Anyways, we were sitting on the hillside together, and he made a comment to me about how special it was to him that he was able to introduce me to it and see me grow up and now be in a position where I was doing the same thing for him. And I don't know, that's another thing that makes it so fun, right? Because you see that with your own kids or with your nieces and nephews. Watching other people go through it and experience it makes it better for you. As a kid, I had an aunt too who was into fishing.
Oh, cool.
And I pretty much only fished around her if we were going to their cabin, but it was almost this unsaid blessing, like, oh, okay, women can do this stuff. Because as a kid, you ask yourselves those questions, like, is this things girls do? Is this things boys do? Especially when you're really little.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't have any little friends that were doing it, there was another woman in my life that I saw fishing, validated, like, it's okay to be interested in this. So yeah, she was pretty important for me too.
So you've had a lot of crazy cool hunts. What is one of your dream experiences?
I have a few. Okay. So hunting wise, I think a moose hunt is probably on my bucket list.
Alaska?
Those are getting more expensive.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I don't care really.
Yeah.
Anywhere. We've thought about like the Newfoundland area. Fishing, I'd really like to do some sight fishing. Yeah. So I don't necessarily know where. And
we can do that.
I'm not a good enough fly fisher person, I think, to do it that way. But it would be pretty fun to like be wading out in the ocean and sight fishing.
Yeah.
Maybe Key West. I don't know.
Yes.
You say we can do it in Virginia. Maybe we'll have to try that next time. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
I haven't done a lot of that. And then other outdoor bucket list thing is to get my kids and Mike in Yellowstone and do a backcountry fishing camping trip.
They'd have the best guides.
It would be really fun to kind of go back to that place. Would be special, and then have them with us.
Yeah. Kaley, what about you?
For hunting, I'd say definitely an elk hunt or bighorn sheep. We went on a hike not this past summer, but 2 summers ago in New Mexico when me and my Aunt Kate and Uncle Jed went out, and my sister went out to New Mexico to visit Mike and Kaylin and the boys. And we went on this hike, and we ended up being lucky enough to see some bighorn sheep, and I got some cool photos. And I just think they're such a cool animal. I feel like it'd be really fun to hunt those. And for fishing, I don't really know. I'm not a big saltwater fisher. I like to fish where I like.
Have your feet on the ground?
That, yeah. And yeah, I'm not a big boat person. I mean, I am on like lakes, but definitely not in the ocean because I get seasick. But I don't know. I enjoy really just fishing for, bass and trout and the basics. But I feel like maybe I'd want to end up fishing for something bigger, but I don't really know what that would be for right now. But, and then, what was the other one?
Or any type of location.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to leave the country because I don't really know much about, like, anywhere else. But just really anywhere out west. Like, I want to go back to Montana, definitely, because I've been there once, but I was, like, very little.
You were really little.
Yeah.
Yeah, I barely remember it. But
You were only 3 or 4.
Yeah.
For sure.
yeah, I think that would be really cool. Like Wyoming, I really want to go there. But yeah.
What about you, Meemaw?
Where I want to go yet?
Yeah.
If I have a chance. Well, Iceland. I don't know why. Just intrigues me.
It's beautiful.
I would love to do a river cruise on either the Rhine, probably the Rhine. I'd like to kind of see some of my German heritage. And last but not least would be New Zealand.
Yeah.
Because Kate was there her freshman year of college and study abroad. And just the pictures that she brought back and her experiences and things like that. Would love to see that.
See that yourself.
That cat is cracking me up.
Usually it's dogs that interrupt the podcast, but right now there's a cat.
It's feral
looking
cats.
through the window. You grew up going to Germany a lot, right?
Yep. So my dad was stationed in the Army when he legitimately bumped into my mother at a train station, and he said from that moment that he was going to marry her. It took some convincing. She gave him an alias because she thought he was a crazy American
What was
soldier.
the alias? Do you know?
Well, the alias was, I think it was like Utah Smith or something like that. But in Germany, it would be like Amy Smith, like just a super broad name that he would never have been able to track her down. He's going to hear this and be like, you have heard this story 100 times. You know what alias she gave me, and I'm blanking right now. But he actually like
a Jane Doe kind of almost.
Yep. And he called every alias in the German phone book. And there was never any woman that was like, yes, we spoke. But she actually
What's
an alias, a fake name. She gave him a fake name.
Oh.
So then how did they meet again?
She felt really bad. Like he was trying to walk next to her and talk to her. And she's just like, she was kind of flirting back because he was this handsome American soldier. And she's just like, no, she gave him a fake name. But she knew where the Americans were stationed. And she actually wrote him a letter just apologizing. That's all and like giving her his real name. And she went there and she could not pronounce his name at the entrance of the barracks because it's John Vashtian, but her V's are W's. So she's trying to pronounce this name and she's completely botching it in her broken English. And so she left the letter with the people and she didn't even she couldn't have it written on the envelope because she didn't know how to spell it. So anyhow, I guess the two soldiers that were at the guard shack were trying to figure out who this woman was talking about. And they're like, I bet that's John Vashtian. And they ran into the compound or wherever, the barracks, and they grabbed him and they were like, there's a German woman here to see you. And so my dad was like, well, there has to be this mystery woman. And he had sprinted out. And that's why I was saying last time it was like Notebook. And he caught her right before she got to the train station again. And
that's so crazy.
So that was 3 months before he got restationed back to California. And so they got married there, had an American wedding here.
She went with him after 3 months.
After 3 months. Yeah. Yep. And they've been married for 48 years.
That's awesome.
So I've been going to Germany. I think the first time they took me over was when I was 8 months old. And we go back every couple years, or my family comes here, all my first cousins and aunts and uncles. And I'd spent whole summers there with my brother. And my parents would join, as work would allow. But so lots of time over there. So I've gotten to travel to some really special, beautiful places also because countries are so close over in Europe. So whenever we go over, my aunt, we're blessed that she has an RV, and it's like, okay, we'll spend 2 weeks in Germany and then we'll take a week and we'll bebop in the RV to Austria and Italy and Spain and things like that. So that's been really cool. As far as like hunting and fishing dreams, it's definitely a dream of mine to do an archery elk hunt. I think there would be nothing more, just more of a rush than to shoot an elk out there out west during archery when they're bugling. So that's a dream for sure. I would love to go spearfishing. We have the gear. Mark and I, when we get a bug to try a new hobby, we kind of stupidly go all in. We do the research and we're like, oh, we could do this. Yeah. So we got all the gear, watched pretty much every Kimmy Swimmy episode there is. She is my daughter's idol. She absolutely loves Kimmy Swimmy. So, we did all the pumping up we needed for spearfishing. We took our gear to Virginia a summer or 2 summers ago, and we were planning on spearfishing under the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. And hopped out, and the visibility that day was, you probably could only see like 3 feet in front of you.
Oh, wow.
And I know the fish that we're catching there. And just thinking about that, and I have a real hang up with water I can't see in if it's like, super deep. And I definitely chickened out. And I was not in the water for more than roughly 3 minutes, I would say. And then Mark came in. So maybe I ought to.
Would you try again?
Absolutely. I think I should try either in some clear water.
Sounds like going to Hawaii or Keys.
Yes, Keys. Yeah. Yes, let's do it. Let's plan that.
I want to go.
Or even, let's make it a family trip. Next Ruhl vacation. Or even just shallower water.
Yeah.
I think. So that would be cool. But I would love to go back to Wyoming and do an antelope hunt with CJ, because that was probably one of my most memorable and just fun, relaxed hunts, spotting and stalking from afar. And I think that's as long as she's up for the hiking, I think it's a good out west hunt to get her on, just because it's kind of not as much pressure to be still and quiet because you're, scoping a couple mountaintops away and things like that. So
feet won't be dangling.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. Hi, folks. Caitlin here. Rachel, Kaley, Meemaw, and I had so much fun talking that this is going to be a 2-part episode. We'll be back with the second part next week. Thank you so much for listening. As always, you can find all of our content at www.outdoorrules.com. We're on Instagram at Outdoor Rules, and we're also on Facebook. Mike had something new he wanted me to mention. If you ever want to get hold of us, send us an email at outdoorrules, rules spelled RUHLS, @gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again for listening.
Hunting and fishing, the great outdoors, mixing history, laughter, love, and folklore, creating memories with family and friends. These are the trophies that matter in the end. Outdoor Rules.